Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. This is The Process. Today, we're talking about SEIU, Local
Yeah.
73, reaching an agreement with Cook County to end the 18-day strike. Welcome, Mr. Ice. I'll just shorten your name. And Alessandra Nicholson, Mr. Ice, Black Ice. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us. Mr. Ice is from Illinois, Chicago, to be exact.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today.
You are welcome. You're welcome. So let me just segue into a little bit of what happened from what I heard. So you have the facts, I have reports. So
Right.
SEIU represents the frontline or baseline workers, as they're called, basically phlebotomy, dietary, EVS, or processing services like those. The
Yes.
union said the union had an 18-day strike, the longest in history for the union, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. A 4-year tentative agreement contract includes an 8.5% pay increase over that time, but workers will pay more for healthcare premiums. Their previous contract expired in December. So reports are the healthcare increase is like about 80 to 90%. Is that correct?
Yeah. Those figures are just about correct because it's almost like a doubling to some level at the end or the life of the contract of what we currently pay right now.
Mm. So Alessandra is on. I don't know if she's able to ask. You have anything you want to ask before we get into our round of questions for Mr. Ice?
I'm just curious what it feels like to have completed the longest strike in Cook County history.
Well, I'm glad that you asked that because there were moments when it was very tough on many levels. The biggest level was to see the hurt and the pain financially that my coworkers took. They took that hit, and to see them having to borrow money from their family members and their friends to help pay their bills, but they still stayed on the line to make that sacrifice. I mean, that was the biggest emotional hit for me. But on the other hand, to see these essential healthcare heroes and other essential workers with the county of Cook that came out and they said, I'm going to, I don't know if you know or saw the news, but for the first 7 days of the strike, it rained virtually every day.
Oh, wow.
And we were out there in the rain every single day. So before we do anything, before we start anything, my followers are on. They know I do poetry. I am the king of poetry, Black Ice. So I'm going to recite a poem called My Ode to You, to my healthcare heroes, my essential brothers and sisters for Cook County that stayed out there with me. This is called My Ode to You.
Oh.
You have sacrificed so much, even more than we could ever ask of you. Taking care of strangers every day, bonding for a moment. You stay while they pass through. Everyone is welcome through these healthcare doors. There are none whom we reject. No matter the income bracket or social status, we treat all with dignity and respect. We are frontline, essential healthcare heroes and workers, those who literally lay their lives on the line. Every time we've called on you, you responded every time. You are literally on the battlefield with this new strain of COVID-19. I have a newfound respect for all of the members on my team, risking your lives every day and the lives of those whom you love. I know you didn't sign up for this. You must be heaven sent, angels sent from God above. So this is my ode to you. For every morning you arrived to work before the sun came up. For every night you dozed off behind the wheel, barely making it home. For every patient whose hand you held, letting them know that they are not alone. My ode to you. You are my essential healthcare hero brothers and sisters.
Come on. Come on, black guys.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes. Thank you. So that was excellent. Even if I scripted myself, I don't think it would have went better. So thank you for that piece. So I want to know I have a few questions. I want to get into it in a way that will make things easy for people, for persons watching to understand. So I'll start with a simple question. What are some of the factors that led to the strike? Like in our field, we have issues. Every field has issues. But some persons probably watching this video right now and trying to figure out, I have issues with equipment, I have issues with pay, I have issues with management. What was your experience of what led to your strike, so people could relate to that in terms of if they want to move forward with something on that level in the future?
Okay, well, I am a 28-year employee with the County of Cook.
Wow.
And I am a 15-year union steward.
Hold on.
Yes.
Yep.
And so this has been a buildup over years and years and years. I want to say a century. I want to say over 10 years. So we have, during negotiations, and I've been a part of about 4 negotiations, we have been getting the short end of the stick. We've always been told by the county that, hey, we don't have enough money. If you guys just sacrifice for us this contract, then we'll look out for you the next contract. If you just do this, if you just do that. We've done everything that they have asked of us. And during this COVID-19 2020 year, there were many things that came out of the woodworks. We were not able to work from home, to work in front of a computer. We had to go in each and every day to work and work with patients that came in our hospital with testing positive for COVID-19. So when we began contract negotiations, the federal government began to give these organizations and healthcare facilities billions of dollars. So they gave Cook County Hospital last year $1 billion to spend on things that were concerning COVID-19. Okay. I'm sorry, brother. That noise is real loud. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Mute yourself.
Yep. So they began to hire agency workers to come into the hospital that they were paying $100 an hour, working next to us that were making $20 an hour.
Right.
They put them up in hotels. And we said, well, wait a minute. If you can spend this much money on traveling nurses, on traveling agency workers to come into the hospital where we work every day, and we've been here every day, and we work next to them, they're making 4 times our salary. Something is wrong with that. It's not right. And so when we sat at the table and began to discuss economics, they said, okay, well, we want to raise your healthcare insurance, and we want to give you minimal amount of a raise to cover that healthcare insurance, the cost of living, and every other thing that you have to do with your life. Now,
was that what the 8.5 was supposed to represent?
That's what the 8.5 was supposed to represent. Okay. When you take a job and they explain to you what the hazard of that job is, you expect to be paid according to the hazard of that particular job. Well, when we got hired at Cook County government, the hazard that was then is not what it is now. Now we're working in an environment where we can die from this environment. Well, we can bring things home with us, which many of us did, and our families contracted COVID-19. One or two of our coworkers died from attracting COVID-19. Mm-hmm. Many of them had to quit their jobs because of COVID-19. Many of them have heart problems now that didn't have it before when they attracted COVID-19 at the job. And so we said, no. We said that if you call us essential healthcare heroes, and if you say that we are important enough that we can't work from home, then we deserve to earn a livable wage that's going to be on the same levels as the surrounding hospitals in our area, because we got Northwestern, we got Rush Hospital, and we got all the other unions that were awarded substantial increases. But when it came to us, we were not awarded the same thing. And we said that that was enough for us to go out and strike and withhold our labor for.
I agree. That was a good point. That was a good point. So when did you start actually negotiating to strike?
Well, I want to put it in a different terms, because you really don't negotiate to strike. What you do is, in the middle of contract negotiations, you get to a certain point, and if you can't get past that certain point, you begin to speak to your membership, and you say, hey, I don't think that we're going to get any further than where we are now at the table. So we have to consider withholding our labor so that we can demand the things that we know that we deserve. So around, I want to say, the month of April, the end of April, we began the discussion. Maybe this is something that we may have to do to get what we want. Well, April passed, we got into May. Things did not improve. Then we got into June. Then it became a reality. We said, okay, well, we'll give the county a chance and an opportunity to do the right thing. They came back with what was called at that time their last and final best proposal. When they came back with that last and final best proposal, we knew that we could not accept it. And so we reached out to the membership. We said, we must strike. And then we began the strike on June the 25th. And that was the day that we began to make history. Number one, being the first strike in our union and the longest strike ever with SEIU and Cook County in the state of Illinois.
And tell me, Black Ice, what do you feel like your constituents have now after day 18 that they didn't have when you guys were at that negotiating table all those months?
Right. And so there was a few things that we fought and we were awarded during the strike. Number one, we were able to get the 8.5% that we were fighting for. But, you know, that was just a small thing, because we knew that normally when one union settles, everyone gets the same thing, right? But what we were not getting was the step increases that the other unions were getting inside of their contract. So the nurses negotiated somewhere around a 4% step increase within their contract. So in addition to the 8.5%, they got a 4%, which made them a 12.5% wage increase over the life of the contract. And so these were things that we were fighting for. And so we were able to get many of our classifications upgraded from, and I'm talking about the lower paid wage earners in our union. We were able to get many of them upgraded, such as dietary, transportation, environmental service workers, ward clerks, and also longevity pay, which was one of the major things that we were fighting for and we were negotiating. The county moved a little bit on that. And I'll give you an example. There's one employee that's been working, my coworker, for 45 years. He has not had a raise in 25 years. Wow. Because the way the county is set up, you don't earn any more wages after your last step. And that last step was at the 20-year mark. Yeah. And so imagine what minimum wage was 45 years ago when he started. And then what if you started 20 years after he started? Minimum wage was a little bit high. So that means that you would really catch up to him just about in pay. And so we said that, no, the people that's been working at the county the longest deserve to be rewarded better than some of the people who came after them. And so they moved a little bit on the longevity increase. However, we are in what's called interest arbitration for that particular issue, because what they offered us, we said that no, our members deserve more than that. And so we're in interest arbitration, which means that a federal judge will get involved, and the federal judge would make the decision between the county and SEIU and its members as to how close we're going to be. Are we going to be closer to what they offered or closer to what we're asking for?
It
And
sounds
there were many other agreements that we TA'd on, tentative agreements on, in regarding the language on discipline. Back then, if you were suspended, that could be held in your record for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so we got that knocked down from 5 years to 2 years, you know. Agency workers who came in, the county was treating the agency workers like the county workers. So when there was someone that needed to be pulled to an area that was empty and needed to work, they would pull us before they pulled agency. And now, according to the contract, they would have to pull agency first, and then someone who's at work but doing overtime. This is not their regular shift, before they pulled someone that's on their regular shift. So there were many nuances and languages that were in a contract that we felt good about, that we won. There were some financial upgrades and incentives that we won, but there are two major outstanding things that I just spoke about that are in interest arbitration.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. That sounds like a very involved process. Were you at the negotiating table?
Yes, I've been at the negotiating table for about a year now. There were moments in which the negotiating committee sat at the table on a Saturday to 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. There were times we didn't leave till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so we are fighting. We are strong. We are united. And we accomplished something that many people, including many of us, did not believe could be done. But now we have something to tell our children and our grandchildren, that in 2021, June 25th, we walked out the job, we withheld our labor, we stood together, we united, we fought, and we walked away with a victory.
It's a powerful message. It is a powerful message to send to the industry.
Yeah.
So for those people who feel that they're in the same situation and they feel it's hopeless, they've spoken to everyone they could speak to, they went to officials, etc., and they want to know, how does picketing work? How does it start?
Right. Well, many contracts have a clause in a contract which is called a no strike clause, and we have a no strike clause as well. So that means from the date of birth of your contract and to the end date of your contract, you cannot strike. But once your contract has expired and you begin negotiations, until the time you negotiate a new contract and the time that contract expires, most unions are able to go out on strike. So read your contract and see what your contract actually says. Like I said, we are a government agency. And so, again, we cannot strike during the life of the contract, but once it expires, then that no strike clause no longer exists. But I would say this to each and every one of you. Do not be discouraged, because you're not going to get 100% of participation in anything that you do. And you don't need a lot of people in order to make change. Get you some like-minded individuals, get you some strong individuals that's not afraid, that's willing to make the sacrifice. Learn everything that you need to learn and know about what you're getting into before you get into it. Because the worst thing that could happen is misinformation goes to your members.
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell is going on. What are we striking for? What are we doing? Why are we, you need to be able to answer those questions, because people are afraid and they are scared. But when you explain to them that you've been here for 10 years and 15 years and 20 years, and what are you making? A dime more, 50 cents more than you made 5 years ago? Come on now. And again, the hazard has changed. So when the federal government came and gave Cook County $1 billion, okay, to use in her budget to fund her hospital systems and her other agencies. We thought that we should be a part of that budget. So our ask was not for the $1 billion. Our ask was for 1/20th of 1%. Do you hear what I'm saying? It was 1/20th of 1% of the county's budget. We felt that we were worth that. And if they felt that we were not worth 1/20th of 1%, then that was worth striking for.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, y'all, I'm passionate about
oh no, I'm over here like
hold on 1 second. Yeah, that definitely.
I'm over here taking notes, sir.
I appreciate your passion. I really do. I really do.
And let me say this. You know, we like our bosses at work. You know, some of them are not easy to work with, but we like our bosses. But most importantly, we like our patients. We like the people that we serve. No one can get married unless they come through us.
Right.
In our state, they got to come through Cook County. You can't get married. You can't get deeds. You can't get many of the important paperwork that you try to get for your home, taxes. All that stuff comes through us, and that's on the corporate side and the office under the president and vital records and all of that stuff. Now, when you get to the hospital side, you know, you've been watching the news. In the month of June, well, actually one weekend, there were 21 homicides in one weekend.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And over 91 people shot or 100 people shot in one weekend and 21 homicides. Guess where they go? We are a level 1 trauma center.
Yes.
Cook County.
That was going to be my next question to you was, I heard you talk so much about the way that COVID-19 impacted your system. Yeah. But from the outside looking in, Cook County's system has always been so overwhelmed. And so to hear some of the things that we saw in the articles, like you guys had equipment issues, were chronically understaffed. And that sounds like even with the agency staff, you guys still weren't where you needed to be.
Let me tell you something.
How does that all meld together? How do y'all get through that?
Well, let me tell you something. In my position, because I'm a ward clerk at the hospital, there were times when we were so short that we have, in my area, which is called medical surgery, we have 3 units on 3 different floors, the 6th floor, 7th floor, and 8th floor. We have an east wing, a south wing, and a west wing, okay? All those wings combined, we have about a total of 80 patients with all those wings combined. I would have to go from unit to unit to unit because I was the only one on schedule to work that particular day because we were so short, and take care of 3 units that had 80 patients. So if there was a cold blue, which means that somebody's in real trouble, that could die. And I was on another unit, when they called cold blue on that unit, I would have to go to that unit and find out what room that patient was in order to call the cold blue in. You imagine how much time had lapsed?
How much time?
During that time? Woo. In order for the response team to get there. So this is a serious situation, and these are serious issues, and it puts so much stress and pressure on us because we're trying to do the job of 3 people, and we're just one person.
Yeah. And you were just one person. Thank you for illuminating that, because I think it's so important when we're talking to, you know, folks that don't work in the hospital and we say we deserve a raise. Yes. For what exactly? For things like this. Because even as a ward clerk, which we want to, you know, we like to try to put levels onto different positions, but the amount of power and control that you have in that position to affect somebody's outcome is astronomical. So, you know, it's like, how could you not be giving Black Ice what he's asking for right now? He's not asking for the world. He's asking for additional ward techs. He's asking for enough salary that he can afford to stay here in the place that he's worked almost 30 some odd years. It almost feels like, why is it even something that we have to fight about? But God bless folks like you, your team that was able to see the need and rise to the occasion, because walking out for 18 days, like you said, financially, that's not something that a lot of us are in a position to do. So hats off to you guys for standing up for what you knew was right.
Thank you. And you know, we're the first face, and I'm talking about the clerks right now. We're the first face that people see when they arrive at the hospital. We're the first face that people see when they get admitted to their room. We're the first voice that they hear on the phone when they call. And so we have a way of easing the tensions of the patients that come there, because people are scared. No one will come to a hospital unless they had to come to a hospital. And so there are many gunshot victims that I see, young men and young women. And my nurses ask me, why don't you go and talk to them and encourage them and give them a word of encouragement? And so our role is not just answering the phone and typing things into the computer. Our role is to be the voice and the face of the company in which we represent, to let people know it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. Things are going to get better. I prayed with people. I had to sit there with families in front of a loved one who was lying dead in the hospital bed, who had COVID, and just prayed with them and just surrounded them and just loved on them while their loved one is deceased right in front of us. There are so many things that I have seen, so many things that I have witnessed, but I love what I do. I love the impact and the effect that my job has on people, because when I go there, I guarantee you the mood and the spirit is going to change. I don't care what it is. When I walk into the room, I'm going to make you feel better. I'm going to make you smile. I'm going to make you, people will call and I say, well, let me give you some information. Do you know what room your loved one is in? Do you know the number to the room that your loved one is in? Do you know, just giving people information?
Yeah, just giving people tools.
It's power, and it makes them feel better. So as you can see, I love what I do, and I have a passion for people.
Well, we appreciate having you on, the poet and the activist, Black Ice. Thank you so much for representing Local 73.
Thank you. And for
Thank you so much for having me.
And for those persons just tuning in, we're referencing SEIU, a Local 73, reaching an agreement after 18-day strike in Chicago, Illinois, Cook County Hospital, to be exact. And what they got, in a nutshell, was a 4-year tentative contract, which includes 8.5% pay increase over that time, over the 4 years. But unfortunately, the workers, how do you feel about the insurance situation, the healthcare situation?
Well, again, and I just want to correct you. The 8.5% wage increase was what's called the across the board. Okay. So all the unions got that, you know. And if that was the only thing that was offered, we would still be on strike right now. So there were some things that we were able to get for our members, you know, in addition to the 8.5% wage increase that took us up a little bit higher than that over the life of the contract. And that was our big argument, because again, we needed to make enough to cover the increase in the healthcare insurance, like I said, which over the 4 years of the contract would almost double for most people. Yeah. And again, you know, when you work at a healthcare facility, and you know, I believe that people who work in a healthcare facility, their healthcare should be free. That's what I believe, you know. But
I ain't mad at it.
Right. Especially if I come to the hospital where I work, you know. Yeah. But again, the county is trying to find a way to balance their budget on the backs of the essential healthcare heroes, and that was just unacceptable. And again, you know, I don't speak negatively of the county today. To them, it's business and nothing personal, but there are many on the county team and on the other side who do care about the people of Cook County, and they have empathy and sympathy for the employees and the workers of Cook County. And again, today we would not be at an agreement on many of the things that we are at an agreement on if some people on the county side and on the county team didn't come back and say, okay, well, we will give you this, what you're asking for. So again, we leave the door open for a good relationship. These are our employers at the end of the day, and we want to have a good working relationship with them. So they are not the enemy. They are just partners that we had a rough time working with. And hopefully after this is all said and done, and after we're done with court and interest arbitration, we can begin to mend some of the relationship that was damaged and broken during these contract negotiations.
Question.
That was a political answer, y'all. That was a political.
Sir.
That was very diplomatic.
That was future running for office right there. I felt.
I ain't trying to make no.
But it's also it's an extremely good point to make about labor management partnerships, because sometimes there really is this us versus them mentality, and we really all should have this, this attitude that we're partners, because we need you. Like in this situation, you guys do need the funding from the county. The county needs your labor. It's not something that either side could get done without the other. However, you have different perspectives. Like you said, for them, it's more of a business. They're looking at the data, they're looking at the numbers, and it's not adding up for them. And then on the other side, we have folks like yourself that see the front line end of that care and are saying to the county workers, what's it worth to you? Because you're missing some of the nuances of what it takes to get this done. So there's nothing wrong with bringing back that levity of this is a partnership.
Right. And we tell them all the time, let's trade jobs for a week.
Right. Let's
see if you can do what we do for a week.
Absolutely. Not only see if you can do it, but see if it's worth the same value to you. Do you come back and think that I'm asking for too much now? Right.
So
as compared to the nurses, do you guys feel you'll got an equal or comparable bargain?
Absolutely not. We're not looked at in the same light as the nurses are looked at. The nurses are looked at as having a little bit more value to the system than what we have. And I'm talking about.
Why do you think that is, Black Ice?
It's something called direct patient care. So when they look at the term direct patient care, they look at that as, okay, you're going to be touching the patient, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that, but they're not looking at the blood that environmental service have to sweep up, and the vomit that they have to sweep up, and the stool and the urine that they have to sweep up, and the feces and all those things. They're not looking at that. They're not looking at the transporters who have to transport patients with HIV and AIDS and COVID-19 and mental health patients. They're not looking at the healthcare advocates in our union that actually are assistant to the nurses and have to sit in the room with the suicidal patients.
Yeah.
And risk their own lives, hoping that these people don't lash out while they're in the room sitting next to them. So that's only a few examples. But again, when you say the word nurse, it just rings different than a transporter, than a janitor, than a clerk, than than a nursing assistant. It just rings different. And again, that's not to any fault of the nurses. But again, we have to make the county see the reality of the value of what we bring to the table each and every day at our jobs.
That's very
Do you feel that there's any room for a partnership amongst the different unions? Like, I haven't had an experience of working for a union, so I don't know if this is maybe something that already takes place, but is there a reality where like Local 73 goes on the picket line and nurses back them up?
Well, our original strike was with the nurses. We both had agreed with our leadership to go out on the same day at the same time. But there's an interesting dynamic when you work for a government agency like Cook County government. Some say Crook County government, but I'll say Cook County government. And that government agency will go to court and seek what's called, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's a judge order that demands that certain classifications cannot go out on strike, or that a minimum amount of employees from that, it's called enjoined. Always remember that word, N-E-N, joined. So they go to the court to seek an enjoyment of many of our members. So if we would have struck with the nurses, only half of our membership could have gone out to strike. And so what we did, we backed off. We told the nurses, okay, you go out on Thursday and you strike, and then we'll go out on Friday and we'll strike. And that way we were able to have at least 80% of our membership to go out on strike, as opposed to 50% if we would have went out with the nurses. So there's some different dynamics there too. But all the unions talk to each other. They tell us what they got. We tell them what we got. We tell each other what we're going to hold out for and what we're not going to accept, and we're going to hold the line. And then sometimes, you know, the unions agree, and sometimes they offer an incentive to one union or another, and then they break ranks. And that's what kind of happened this time.
What do you think going forward? I don't know. You said there's some tentative agreements for the more veteran staff, but what do you see as the future of the relationship between Local 73 and Cook County?
Well, that depends on the leadership, and I would say mainly of our union, because, you know, again, to them it's just numbers and budget. You know, when it comes to us, we are an emotional people, and our members are very emotional because it's personal to us. But because I've ran for political office before, and I've owned businesses and been on the side as an employer who had employees, I understand that in the political world and in the political game, there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. And so when I go as a union steward to represent somebody at the table where management is at, I don't want to have a negative or bad relationship with that manager, nor do I want the person that I'm representing to have a negative or bad relationship with that management, because that could be the difference whether that person goes out on suspension or is given another opportunity to correct his or her ways. So it's beneficial to us to mend some of the relationship that's broken so that we won't be the ones that pay the price of a bad relationship with management.
Thank you for that.
So, question. Alessandro, you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, no. I'm looking at Thomas's comment.
Okay. What are you going to get into it?
Sure thing. Let's get into it.
What we are considered as being paint on the walls, something that is expendable, can be replaced, and anybody with anybody at any time. So true. So saying that, we'll bring on our special guest, Mr. none other than Mr. Clean himself.
Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Hank.
Western Bulge. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
How do you like the
topic?
topic?
To this conversation, it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah. So
for Black Ice's sake, since I know this is our sterile processing world, and you're coming to us from War Clerk. Hank Bosch runs a podcast called Beyond Clean, where they fight dirty every day. Has been one of the kind of vocal folks out here in the industry to ask for a lot of the things that you guys are talking about today. So we're excited to have him on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking as you were speaking earlier, is the fight for compensation. You know, it has so many fronts, and we all have to fight it in different ways. You know, but we all have to fight it. It's not going to change unless everybody's doing their part. So yeah, it's been great to hear your perspective and everything you've been doing there at Cook County. So great work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Now, Hank, let me ask you, because we work in SPD management, have you ever been able to successfully ask for compensation to be raised on behalf of technicians? Yeah.
And honestly, this topic, obviously, I have approached from a hospital level as a manager and director. I've also tried to approach it from an organizational level, from the representative organizations out there that we get our certifications through, for instance. And then even this morning, I actually sent the article this morning to Dee, I think, that I published last night. And it was about getting organized as technicians. And I wasn't like really referencing the union part of getting organized. I was just referencing that a leader is just one person, but 30 technicians, like that's 30 additional voices to be advocating for whatever that ask is from HR or from the C-suite, et cetera. And so, yeah, like it happens in practical ways. So as small as changing that starting rate, you know, doing that market analysis that everyone's always trying to do. And I always complain about because the market analysis doesn't tell you what your technicians should be making. It just tells you what everyone else thinks that their technicians are worth, you know, to your point earlier. And too often that's on the low side to begin with. But yeah, then it just goes to creating opportunities and career ladders, either inside your facility or across the industry for folks to continue to grow. And, you know, that may mean that they have to grow somewhere else outside of my department. All right. If they've got an opportunity to make more money somewhere else, like why would I as a leader try to keep them in that space if my hands are tied by HR for whatever reason, when it comes to compensation, et cetera. So yeah, there's just so many angles to that.
Right. Because I think about, I'm stuck on Black Ice's tenure because to me, I almost can't imagine working in the same place for that long at this point in my career. You know, for you to be able to do that and then to have a company that you're just saying, hey, can you acknowledge me for that? That I'm not some fly-by-night employee. You didn't have to go looking for me. I've been here. I know the history. I'm just asking for a little bit of change. You know, it doesn't seem like we should have to argue so hard for that.
And you got to think, you know, I grew up, you know, at my job. I mean, my practically my whole adult life, you know, when I started working, you know, at the job, I had no children, you know. You know, I ended up having 2 sons, and there, you know, and you know, the job itself, of course, I've had some other things outside of the job. I've owned some businesses outside of the job. I'm a full-time entertainer, so I do a lot of that work, activism work, and you know, I do a lot of things. But you know, being in the union protects you. And a lot of people say, well, why do I need a union? Well, why do I, you know, why am I paying union dues? Well, don't you know that even if you're never in trouble and need the union to not represent you because you're in trouble, this is an organization that's going to negotiate your wage increase every 4 years. It's going to negotiate what you pay in your healthcare costs every year. September the 3rd, 2008, I lost my 15-year-old son to cancer.
I'm sorry.
Our hospital bills from 2007 to 2008 was $500,000. But because I was employed with Cook County and had a good benefit package, I didn't have to pay a dime out of my pocket because I got a union that negotiated health care for myself and my coworkers. You know, you can get HMO or PPO, and it's at an affordable rate. And these are things that people really don't understand the power of a union. It's not just protecting you from getting punished, but it's negotiating your wages and negotiating the language in your contract where you just can't, because you don't like me, you can fire me because you don't like me. No, you have to give me oral, which means you got to sit down and talk to me. And then after that, you have to give me a verbal. Then you have to give me a written. Then you have to give me a 1 day, a 3 day, a 5 day, a 10 day. You got to go through all those steps before you can terminate me. You know, and that's because we have a union that has those steps in place in contract language. If I'm selected for layoff, then I have the opportunity to go into a vacancy. It may be an upgrade. If I've gone to school and got another degree or certification or something else, and if there's a vacancy there, when I'm selected for layoff, guess what? I have the opportunity to go into that position. I'm qualified to do it. And I could be making more money than I was making before I was selected for layoff. If there's no vacancy available, according to our contract, Article 4.4.3 says any employee selected for layoff shall be transferred to any vacancy where they have the ability and skill to perform the required work. And if there is no vacancy, then we can exercise our bumping rights. So then we can bump a less senior employee in the same classification. So all those things are in place because we have a union. It's the power of a union.
It's power of the union. Read them contracts, folks.
That's right.
That's an interesting, maybe distinction between the organizations that a lot of us in sterile processing look to and say, oh yeah, like they represent us, right? Or they advocate for us. But and just hearing you talk about what the union provides to their members, and then, comparing that to some of the other opportunities, I think like we do have a lot of organizations, even Beyond Clean, right? Like my organization, we represent the industry in various ways. We give the industry a platform. We educate the industry, but we don't advocate in mass, for pay increases, right? Because that's just not our role, and that's not our skill set. Even though we talk about it all the time, we talk that it needs to happen. Like we say we need to agitate, like we say we need to keep on, like bringing in, we try to give best practices, right? But I just, I wanted to bring up for folks who listen who maybe have not thought about that before, that it may not be that one organization or one group is all that it's going to take to get our industry and our people to where we want to go. It might be a couple of them that do different things and do them well in collaboration together to get us recognized, to get us paid, to get us trained and educated, to get us connected and networked. Like all those kinds of things have to happen in order for an industry to succeed. So yeah, that's great. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it takes, and if there's one thing that this union has done with this 18-day historical strike, we made other people believe that it could be done and it could be achieved. There's no way that you would have told me 10 years ago that I'll be out on strike for 18 days. I would have, no, come on, man. With Cook County, the powerful Cook County, the largest county in the United States, never would have believed it. But we have a new leadership in our union under Diane Palmer, under Jeff Howard, under Tremaine Reeves. We have a new union and new union leadership. And they said that, hey, we have to take a different approach because we haven't been getting the things that we deserve the way we used to do business. So SEIU is not business as usual anymore.
And I think that's important to raise up because I read the article that you published last night, Hank, and Dee shared it with me this morning, and I was like, this is great because I feel like on the front line for technicians, like for myself, I went into management similar to what Black Ice is talking about, where I just saw the vacuum for leadership, and so I went for it. I felt like somebody got to say something, right? So I jumped into that role, but as he was saying, to take that leap into 18 days of striking is no small feat. What types of things we were asking earlier, what types of things were you guys doing before you went on strike? And there was this process, right? One of the things that I loved about the article was it gave everyday technicians some tools to say, hey, you guys actually do have power in numbers, but there's also power in the data that you have, right? Like, it's not enough for us to just be, griping and complaining in our break rooms to say, oh, we're understaffed. How can we demonstrate that? I just don't imagine that Black Ice is going into that county board meeting and saying, hey, we need more staff, right? You guys came with some type of paperwork. So I'm curious from your perspective, Hank, what types of things could regular old everyday technicians gather together to start moving some of these pieces forward?
Yeah, great question. And that article again, the second part of that we talked about in the article, like I talk about the importance of getting organized and seeing the power in numbers at the technician level, because so much emphasis in our industry is like, what can a manager do? Like how to be a good leader and how to do these things in your department. And that's true. You got to have good leaders. Like a bad leader can ruin a great department very quickly. But a key quote in that article was a lot of our technicians outlast our managers. Like managers come in, they go out, they come in, they go out, they come in, they go out. But then you got guys like Black Ice that are there their entire career, right?
Yes.
They're overstaying, right? They have the facility knowledge in that cultural leadership, regardless of what the title is. And that's so powerful and so important for our technicians to understand is you have power. You don't need a title, but you do need numbers. To the beginning of this interview, like I missed the kickoff, right? So you might have mentioned this, but for a strike to be successful, like everybody's got to buy into it, right? And so your question, even on the practical side of changing a department, you've got to get your fellow technicians to buy into the fact that this is a problem. An example that I mentioned is like the chemical rashes that we get sometime in decontam. Like we'll change the chemical that we're using, then everyone starts getting rashes. Well, if it's just one person that says, I'm going to complain about this, maybe it'll change, but maybe it won't. But if you start getting everyone who's being impacted, or even the ones that are not being impacted, but they care about their coworker safety, and they're still going to HR, they're going to employee health, they're going to their manager on a united and strategic basis to say, we're not going to take this as a team anymore. Something has to change. That's the power there. And that's the data piece, to your point, because the frontline folks, they know what's going on better than anybody else does. They can get the photos, they can take the notes, all that stuff comes in. And without it, it's a manager trying to make an argument to HR, to the financial officer, but they don't have any like hard data to bring in and say, this is why it needs to change. Now, the last part that I'll say about this, and this is kind of the second part about that article, is I think our industry, because we're getting so plugged in and networked into social media, and believe me, I love social media, right? Huge social media fan, like huge podcast fan, all those kind of things. But because we're so plugged in, we can waste a lot of great time and passion and activity by just talking about things and complaining about things and ranting on our Facebook or like writing articles about how mad we are about something, but we don't do anything in our facility about it. We don't organize with our fellow technicians, and we don't make the change locally. And that's really that second big part that I want folks to take away from that is if you're faced with a challenge, it's okay to talk about it online, but it's not okay to just talk about it and not do anything about it at the local level.
That's true. Yes. And one of the things that I would say too is documentation is important. Because oftentimes we get to the table and we try to remember things that happen, but we don't have a specific day, a date, a time. And when it comes to those type of things, that's the data that's needed to fuel your fight and to fuel your argument. When you can go before the table and say, hey, compared to what other healthcare facilities do, this is what we do over here. And this is what they get paid versus this is what we get paid. So there has to be a standard in which one can look at and say, the people in your field, the standard of pay is this particular rate. And the job is this particular job. So that when you can show and when you can prove that you're doing more than, number one, the job requires for you to do, and then number two, people who do the same job or less get paid more, then that's a big fight for your argument.
Yes, and in a lot of departments, you keep hearing the arguments, you keep hearing the rumblings, but nothing ever happens. Right. What would be the option for a department that doesn't have a union or a facility that doesn't have a union?
To get one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say, Black Ice.
Right, to get one, but you have to be careful because as soon as management and ownership find out that you're trying to organize, then they will retaliate and they will begin to fire people. You know what I'm saying? if you're not careful. So it's something that really has to be done underground. But you got to be careful because there's always that one that's going to go back to management, you know, that Judas and going to go ahead and report. So you got to be careful as to who you let into that early on conversations about organizing.
And I would just add there, because your question is, like, what do you do if you don't have a group like this advocating on your behalf, like for these kinds of things? And even in the states and the facilities that don't have their own union, like, we can learn a lot of great lessons, you know, from the ones who do. And you can do a lot of organizing and a lot of collective, like, we can't say collective bargaining, right, because that's a pretty technical term, but you can do a lot of collective work and, you know, conversations to show everyone else around you the positive impact of just working together. Right. And, you know, to your point about the Judas, like, I feel like a lot of those folks don't understand the value about what's going to happen. Like, maybe they're afraid of it, or maybe they're just like want to kiss the manager's butt, or, you know, whatever. But if they saw the impact that this organization can have and that strategy can have to improve the status of the department, to improve compensation, like, honestly, one of my biggest beefs with the industry is how dangerous our sterile processing departments are, like, just how dangerous the job is, unnecessarily so. Even with all the regulatory requirements and everything else out there, and there's so many departments that's so easy to get hurt, so easy to get exposed to chemicals that you shouldn't be exposed to, and all this kind of stuff. And so for me, that's where you start. I would start with the safety topic first, to say, hey, we are not safe. We must be safe as human beings, like, regardless of if you're unionized or anything else. Like, you owe a duty of safety to us under the OSHA General Duty Clause, and that's it. And if they push back and they're ignoring everything else, like, keep going up the chain of command in your hospital. And if you keep getting batted down, start making some phone calls directly to the Joint Commission, directly to OSHA. Like, keep on agitating until you get the answer that you want. But you got to be smart about it.
You do.
You do.
Because, you know, oftentimes people will tell you that they're with you. And then you'll stand out there, and then they'll fall all the way to the back, and then you'll be left out there in the front by yourself on the balcony.
They're with you until the pressure starts, right? Yeah. They love it, like, when things are going well, but then when there's some pushback and there's some pressure, that's when you really figure out who's bought in and who just wants the reward, right?
Who just wants the reward.
They're with you.
I gotta shout out Miss Crystal Johnson, because she going hard in the comments for SCIU 73.
So
thank you for joining us.
Let's give Miss Crystal a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Crystal is one of our Miss Christelle is one of our healthcare advocates at Cook County Stroger Hospital. And this is one sister who I just had to fight a case for. You know, she's also a union steward like I am. But she was made to work Thanksgiving 2020, Christmas 2020, New Year's Day 2021, Martin Luther King birthday 2021. It's like these things are supposed to be rotated. You know, I work one holiday, I'm off the next holiday. I work one holiday. She ended up working 5 holidays in a row. And so we grieved it. We met with the department head, which is her boss's boss. And we said, hey, everybody has a family. And everybody wants to spend time with their family. And past practice is that we alternate the holidays that we work. Well, we had a new manager who wanted to do things different. And she's like, okay, well, you work 5 holidays, then you off the next 5 holidays. No, what if we don't want to do it like that? And so we ended up getting it overturned, where her boss's boss said, hey, this is not right. we're not going to do any employee like this, make them work all these holidays in a row. And so we said, okay, well, how are we going to come to this conclusion? How are we going to fix this? Well, Veterans Day was coming up. She wanted Veterans Day off, right? So it was said that, okay, well, we can't get you Veterans Day off because, you know, it's only a couple of days away. We will have to shift up the schedule and everything else. I said, well, what about giving her the rest of the holidays off for the rest of the year? Mm. And so because Juneteenth now is a new federal holiday and it was instituted, she would have been off 7 holidays, right? And so to make it balanced, we just said, okay, she would only work one more holiday this year and it would be one of the major ones. So it was decided that she would work Thanksgiving, but she's off all the rest of the holidays of the year with the exception of Thanksgiving. And this was all the way like in February when we had this fight and this argument. So again, union works, union has power, but it's only going to have the power dependent upon the people who are in it and how we organize and unite together.
Absolutely.
It's in as they say, you could go far, you could go fast by yourself, but you could go far with a group. So that definitely proves that.
Yeah.
So
and
Hank,
I like to say individually we are great, but collectively we are powerful. So you just want to be great or you want to be powerful? You know,
it's an important question, very important distinction, because I mean, we've said it a few times, you know, some of our answers are political, but we all have aspirations, right? We all have goals. So it's important to make that distinction. Are you just trying to get a crown so everybody can give you a cookie today? Or were you really trying to move something forward for the collective? Because that could be for the staff, that could be for the patients, it could be for the organization, but what are your true motivations?
Right.
It's important to have that in hand.
It's true.
So let me see what I could do here. I'm trying to get Hank stuff on here.
Right.
Okay, guys, and I'm going to have to sign off in a moment because I have another podcast that started at 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you again. Keep up the great work, okay?
Well, look,
Thank
man,
you
if
so
there's
much
anybody
for
out
coming
there
on.
that definitely want to keep in contact with me, definitely get my number from Denard. And
Yeah, how do we?
From anybody who's watching out there, hey, I'll put my number in the comment section because again, it's about us coming together and it's about us uniting. There's no big I's and little U's. You know, it's about all of us together. Individually, we are great, but collectively, we are powerful.
And where can we find the ode to the healthcare worker?
So, actually, I just recorded a new album, my 29th and 30th album. And so definitely get my information from Brother Bernard. And there are a litany of pieces that's dealing with healthcare workers and COVID and, you know, my perspective and my belief on COVID and everything and the healthcare. But there's definitely one that I want you to check out too. And it's called I'm a Rapper. And so the hospital put together a project. And the project was based on the words RAPPER. And it says, make your rounds, assess the patient, prepare and prevent, evaluate, and then repeat the steps. So all of it was for fall prevention. And so I created a healthcare song that relates to fall prevention as well. So, you know, I love my healthcare family, man. We do so much. And if you look at the videos for the strike line, I'm the DJ. And so I'm the one that keep everybody motivated, keep everybody chanting, keep everybody going. And that's what God blessed me with. So that's what I'm giving to the people.
Can you do me a favor? Can you end with that poem?
Which one?
The one you said at the beginning of the show.
Oh, you want me to do the same poem that I did in the beginning?
Yeah. Please.
Okay, let me pull that up real quick. My ode to you. All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. My ode to you. You have sacrificed so much, even more than we could ever ask of you. Taking care of strangers every day, bonding for a moment, they stay and some pass through. Everyone is welcome through our doors. There are none whom we reject. No matter the income bracket or social status, we treat all with dignity and respect. We are the frontline heroes, essential workers, those who literally lay our lives on the line. Every time they've called on us, we've responded each and every time. We are literally on the battlefield with this new strand of the coronavirus, COVID-19. I have a newfound respect for everyone who stayed those 18 days on that strike line, and for my whole healthcare team. We risk our lives every day and the lives of those whom we love. I know we didn't sign up for this. To you, my essential healthcare workers, you must be angels sent from heaven above. So this is my ode to you. For every morning you will ride to work before the sun came up. For every night you dozed off behind the wheel, barely making it home. For every patient whose hand you've held, letting them know that they are not alone. You are the essential healthcare heroes. You deserve everything that you receive and nothing less. And it was my job to come on today's program to let everybody know the process.
There you go. He giving y'all reason to work up the end. Okay,
a little bit of freestyle up there. A little bit of freestyle.
Thank you. That was excellent. That was excellent. That was excellent. That was excellent. And thank you so much. And I will put your information out there. Your YouTube channel. You want to say your YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's fine. Black Ice TV, BLAQ, ICE TV.
Black Ice TV. And you could see more of the strike. He has some excellent videos on the strike that covers the strike, and some very inspirational moments also from that strike. Yes, and then we'll be happy to have you on again. So thank you.
It'll be my honor.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. So, Mr. Hank, thank you for coming on. Thank you. You're the man.
Come on now.
I've seen your recent videos. How should I your rep talk? What was that?
The Vendor Management Summit.
Vendor Management Summit. How were you able to get that many vendors out in the open at one time?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, because a lot of those guys were competitors, right? You know, they've got competitive technologies or competitive instruments, etc. And that's one of the awesome opportunities, I guess, through Beyond Clean is we've got so many partnerships with suppliers and manufacturers out there that believe in what we're doing. Like they see the value of education and the value of creating these conversations, right, and coming together for that. So it's just as you're learning, if you invite folks, oftentimes they just say yes. It's a matter of inviting them, right? Like they just never. If you've got an opportunity to give them a platform to share their passion or their insight, I'd say 9 times out of 10, folks say, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to do that." So. But it was a good talk. I was very impressed. That was the largest panel on that topic that I'm aware of has ever happened in our industry to date. And we tried to make sure to have manufacturers, the technology or innovators, and then also some users on there to really lay down what those challenges are and what the opportunities are. And we just scratched the surface. Like you should have seen the outline of questions. It was like 20, 30 questions. I think we got to 5 in 2 hours. It was crazy.
That was crazy. I learned a lot from that too. I learned a lot from that video. from that interview process. So thank you for putting that on. Some things I didn't even know, because vendors don't talk. Vendors don't talk.
Yeah, they don't talk to us, and that's what's so funny about that panel is you probably saw, like, a lot of these sales reps, especially, like, they have got great relationships with the surgeons, right? They like take them golfing, they take them hunting, and they take them out to eat for dinner, you know. And so the providers and the manufacturers are often very, very tight. And then even these innovators that are selling these solutions, they're often talking to, like, sterile processing leadership or supply chain. But yeah, for technicians themselves to hear directly from the folks that are struggling to get the trays in on time, like, what's the cause? What's the reason for that? Is it just because they don't care, because they're lazy? Or are there actually some other potential breakdowns and barriers, you know, to really making that happen on a regular basis? And I think that came out in that panel discussion. Yeah,
definitely. So tell us about what's going on the 16th.
Yeah, so July 16th, which is coming up in 2 days, if you're watching this live, is the first ever global conference with the CBSPD organization. So that is the certification board for sterile processing. And we reached out to them, you know, probably about a year ago now, with an idea to put something together like this to leverage what we're doing through these virtual events and Beyond Clean, and create some tailored education and content that would help not only their certified professionals, but everyone in the industry. The even though the conference is in collaboration with CBSPD and Beyond Clean, it's approved for ISHM as well as nursing contact hours as well. But yeah, it's going to be all about flexible endoscopes. And this is another one, again, that it's hard for sterile processing folks to go to one conference and get this much like focused, flexible scope education. If you go to, like, a large conference, there's going to be all different kinds of sessions. If you go to a small conference, there may be 1 or 2 webinars or 1 or 2 presentations. But we're bringing together 7 different sessions about all different perspectives and topics when it comes to endoscope reprocessing. And there's going to be some interviews in there, going to be some panel discussions, and then just some great direct education as well. Oh, I think you're muted there, D.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I personally love CBSPD. I have a lot of certifications. I have one of the certifications with them, and I think their certifications are well vetted.
Yeah, well, they're accredited, right? I don't know if you saw the interview that I did on Sunday night with Ski Jap, but like an important part that she brought up in there that a lot of folks don't know, because y'all see the conversations on Facebook, you know how folks kind of play these certifications against one another. But I think they're both great and they both have a lot of value, but it's different value and it's in different ways. And everybody just needs to kind of be grown-ups and understand that, like, my daddy's stronger than your daddy or whatever else. Like, that's not the way that we need to play in our industry. But two very important distinctions that I think is cool about CBSPD and underrated is, number one, they've got 2 of their certifications that are accredited. Currently, unless I'm not up to date, but ISHM, the only certification that's actually accredited through ISHM is their CRCST, but all the other ones, which I've got all my certifications through ISHM, right? So all 4 of those. Mm-hmm. But the only one that's actually recognized and accredited is that first one. And like I said, CBSPD has 2. But the second part about it that's kind of underrated is the way that their content is created, like their educational textbooks and their quizzes. The ISHM text and resources is written at a college reading level. the CBSPD resources are written at around an 8th grade reading level. If you look across the globe, and even in the US, and really look at the comprehension levels and reading levels, especially for folks, just think about like how many folks we have working in our industry where English is their second language, right? And we throw down this college level like textbook in front of them and say, good luck, guys. You know, I hope it works out.
Right.
So it's different. Like, I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but I'm saying that there is some important value there. If you know, like, for instance, you're teaching a course, right? And you know that your students are going to be more on that 8th grade reading level, like, it's worth considering if you want to switch that certification that they're studying for, just for that impact, that they can understand that material better. It's the same material. It's not like they're dumbing anything down or anything like that. It's just written in a way that's more understandable. And those kind of distinctions in the interview that we did Sunday with Ski Jap really came out. And I think the more that our industry acts like adults and just is honest with each other with the pros and cons of being certified, you know, with these different groups, I think it's going to be helpful for everyone.
I agree. I just recently started teaching courses, and some of my class really was a cross section. I had intergenerational folks. I had, you know, everybody represented. And one of the biggest challenges that I had was translating that Isham textbook in a way that everybody in the class could understand.
Right.
You know, and to the point where some of my technicians that were studying were assisting other folks with just digesting the language, you know. So I do think that's a valuable piece to bring up, because it seems like in our industry, once you have one, you never really pay that much attention to the other. And the only real like arguments that I hear among the staff is when they go to get recertified. It's like, you know, there's such a difference in the process. But I do have to say, I have all Isham certifications as well. As a manager, one of the things that I've always appreciated about CBSPD is that their recertification process always seemed to be more intense. Where my staff for Isham were able to sign off, you know, in services and things like that. For CBSPD, they really wanted you to back all of that documentation up. So I always found that to be a really valuable piece.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that we're as excited as we are about this event on Friday, and by the way, it is going to be a live virtual conference, but it's going to be recorded for on-demand viewing. So if you're working like most of us are going to be working on Friday and you can't watch it live, don't worry about it. You can watch it anytime over the weekend. You don't have to watch it like all at once. You can kind of pick the times that you have time to kind of tune into the sessions. But in the industry, again, some of that perception, if you will, is, well, Isham has this big annual conference and they've got all these chapters around the country. And so they're the ones that are really active in education, or they're really active in networking. And it's a perception. It's not true, but it's the experience of a lot of folks, especially if you're like us and you're certified through Isham. So that's all you hear. Like, you get the magazine, like you go to those events and it's just Isham, Isham, Isham. Or now it's like HBSA or whatever else it is now. But yeah, this conference is a great reminder to all of the professionals who are certified through CBSPD, but everyone else, that this organization also cares about education, has a ton of great resources. Like Nancy Chobin is one of the most experienced and one of the most impactful professionals in the entire profession. And she's going to be presenting at that conference, right? And like bringing the knowledge, like bringing the heat, right? It's going to be a great conference. And again, it's going to be approved for CEs for both those organizations and for nurses. So it's nice. I hope it kind of reorients, you know, some folks' perspective on that. And an important piece too, just if folks don't know about this, this is going to be a 2-part conference series. This first one is on flexible scopes. The second theme we haven't announced yet, but it's going to be a pretty fun theme, and it'll be coming up in another month or two after this one. So if you like this first conference, you're going to love the second one too.
Well, I definitely hope everybody tunes in. I always feel like I get good information from you guys, things that I just never thought about. And I think that's so important. I mean, we always focus on education for new techs and how we're going to orient and all this fun stuff. For those of us that think we know it all, checking into these types of spaces really is important, because you get nuances, you get new information that you may not have caught up on. We talked about that a little bit on the last episode about IFUs changing, and you know, you running around thinking because you read the last version that you know what you're talking about, and you don't. And for me, I found that Scopes is what changes the most often, has the most new information. So definitely check this out on Friday, guys. 1-day virtual conference. You're getting 7 CEs, opportunity for RNs, for SPD, for Isham, and CBSPD.
So, guys, you scan the barcode, correct? The barcode?
Yep. You just pull up your phone if you got a smartphone, and then pull up that QR code reader, and that'll take you directly to the registration site. And if you're old-fashioned like a lot of us, you can also go to the website educate.beyondclean.net/FLX 2021.
And 7 CEs. I need that.
Don't we all, right? Yeah. So, you know, you're getting into a little secret that I have is we really just do all these events and conferences because we need the CEs. It helps everyone else, you know, but it's really just for us.
I definitely need 7 because I wasn't sure how I was going to get there this year. I really wasn't sure. So
and 2 parts to this conference, D. So stay tuned, because in another month,
yeah, I'm definitely going to be. So, and it's you said it's available after the actual live conference.
All of our Beyond Clean events and content are always available on demand. If it's a CE approved content, it's available through the CE Credit Hub at the Beyond Clean website. And we're really proud of the fact that we've got over 200 CEs available and approved for Isham and for CBSPD folks. And a lot of those are nursing approved as well. So, yeah, anytime you see one of our conferences, and I know we've got a lot of stuff going on, right? We got webinars, we got virtual conferences, we got panel discussions, whatever. And it can be hard to keep up with everything. Definitely to see everything alive. But if anything comes across your news feed or through the newsletter or anything else, like, always remember that if you go to the CE Credit Hub, you can pull up anything you miss. If it was a podcast, if it was a conference, and you can watch it at your leisure. And the great thing about that is you can download your CE certificate immediately. You don't have to worry about it getting mailed to you or emailed or anything like that. Once you pass the quizzes or the survey that's connected to that event, you can download it and get it submitted at the last minute, you know, midnight, the day that it's due. All right, we're thinking of you guys.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm listening for that word. I'm not hearing that word, that 4-letter word.
Oh, free.
Yes.
Okay. So let me, let me bring this up. And I don't know if I've said this on your show before or not, but free is an interesting partner to something else I'm very passionate about that y'all brought up earlier, which is compensation. Like, we believe very strongly at Beyond Clean that sterile processing should be paid more. And we believe that education for sterile processing, like continuing education, should be free. Now, there are certain things that can't be free, right? And in fact, nothing in life is free. It's free to the users or the attenders at our conferences, but obviously the only way that we survive and are able to do these events is we've got great partners and sponsors. And so this FLX conference that's coming up on Friday is actually sponsored by Agility and Northfield Medical. Yep, right down there at the bottom. And that is that's the way that the podcast runs. That's the way that all these events run. It's these manufacturers and these suppliers that cover the cost for folks to attend for free. And as long as we're able to do that, like that is a primary commitment in our company, that we want to try as hard as possible to provide as many education opportunities for free as we can.
Yes, yes. I like that four letter. That's my favorite four letter word. Every time I have free, regardless if I need it or not, I'm there. So
all right, well, I'll keep that in mind. At least we know that there's going to be one person there, right?
No. So anybody listening right now, come out. I'll definitely post it on the group, so that more people come out to the live show. Even if they don't come out to the live show, I'll still promote it over the weekend, because those things fade out after a while. So I'll keep it going for the weekend and keep posting it so that people definitely get the free Cs, so that they won't be coming to me in August, September, October, asking me, where can I get Cs? Where can I get Cs? Don't you remember that free C conference in July?
Yeah. But I mean, more important than that is getting that flexible scope knowledge, because
yes.
And as a manager, especially, like, one of the things Black Ice mentioned was the amount of agency staff that come into their facility. And I just imagine the struggle for management to keep all of those people comped, because you never know, people coming from different facilities have different experience. Some places have educators, some people don't. And you really can get a wide variety of skill level when it comes to flexible scope. So I'm definitely going to be tuning in, because this is what I would consider to be my weaker area as an.
I mean, I know the point about the competencies, right, is so important. And there's documented citations from the Joint Commission in recent history. So I'm talking like a year or two ago, at multiple facilities where they've come in and they've cited these departments because they have travelers that are in there that are doing things that they don't have documented competencies on them. And that can be a whole nother interview topic, right, D, if you want to set that up sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Because I could go there now, but I don't want to go there because
right. But it's the practical side of that is, like, you got departments critically staffed. We need help ASAP just to get the volume through.
Yes.
And these travelers show up at our front doors, and we just throw them in there, and we say, help us out. Decon, prep and pack, whatever it is, throw us in there. But and Joint Commission comes around, and your point, Alessandra, is like, can you prove that they actually know what they're doing back there? And we're like, well, the agency sent them to us, so we think they are.
The agency tested them, gave them a 20 question test.
Yeah. So that's a great point too. And I want to bring up one more thing about that conference, but even about these podcasts, right, that you're doing and that, like, so many other folks out there are doing today. It is about the education. It's about the exposure to the content, the critical thinking part of it all. It's also about getting introduced to new thinkers. And if you watch our conferences closely, we're always trying to bring in traditional voices. Like, we like to have the big names. Like, everyone likes to have some like good educators everyone loves and everyone knows. But we also like to bring in the folks that you've never heard of or seen before at a conference, because they're going to be bringing valuable insight. And there are so many great voices, great thinkers out there. And if you watch a podcast that you love, if you listen to a podcast, if you watch a video series, or if you go to one of the conferences, keep in mind that you can look those folks up and you can reach out if you've got a question, and you should make that network connection and follow back up and say, hey, I loved when you presented at that flexible scope. Can I ask you a question, or can we connect at the next, like, at the next live conference that you're at, so we can go out for coffee and chat, right? Like, that's how networks are built, and that's really the value.
Very true. Very true.
Yes.
And I have to give just Beyond Clean his props, for being a front runner. As a manager, I've watched the way that you guys' content has changed the industry. Even our partners, and the way that they deliver information to the departments now is very much similar to what you guys came out with in the beginning. And so
Right.
to see, you know, the way you can kind of throw a stone to the pond and have it ripple out is so powerful. You know, so I encourage you guys.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's it's a good reminder for everyone, you know, the power that each of us have if we're really passionate about something to change an entire industry. Like we don't like at Beyond Clean, like we're not sitting around thinking, oh yeah, guys, like we've done great, like we really like change the industry. But if we're honest, you know, like if we're really looking back to your point, even like how vendors educate, and you see how many of these like vendor podcasts are out there now. Like Key Surgical's got a podcast, Healthmark has a podcast, and even though like we were not the first sterile processing podcast in existence, we were the first one that saw the value of education and getting it CE approved to drive that even deeper into the industry. And that's what all these manufacturers and suppliers have just finally clicked, like, oh yeah, in addition to selling things, we should probably be educating our customers for how to use it well. And I'm very proud that we've had a positive impact on that.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you again. I've listened to that Lindsey Brown brushes podcast like 20 times.
It's good. She did a great job. Yeah, that was her job interview. She didn't know it. You know, we hired her like, I don't know, 2 years after that. But yeah, she did so great. We're like,
I listened to that like 20, maybe more than that. So yeah, that was something that was very impactful. I was like, okay, when is she gonna mention brushes on the clean side?
Yeah, we're gonna have that question. Don't you worry about that.
I remember when I saw her name pop up on Beyond Clean, I was like, Lindsey!
Right. Yeah. I think the other day someone asked us the best way to get hired at Beyond Clean or to work with Beyond Clean. And I forget if it was like the network panel discussion that we did at the expert series or something, but if it's working for Beyond Clean, if it's working for any company that you love, like there's a lot of great sterile processing companies out there with great cultures or doing a lot of fun things. I would highly recommend get active and stay active on social media, particularly LinkedIn, but anywhere in social media. So both of you are very active. I know your names. I see your content all the time. And that's huge. Like not only for your personal brand, but for your future professional brand. If it's your own, like your own company, like I know you've got the institute that you're training through, and I know Dee's got the YouTube channel, all the other like content streams that you got going on, right? But people don't realize how few people are active on social media in our space that are actually adding value and critically thinking through, like not just like complaining or, you know, posting questions or whatever else. Like they're actually putting value in. You rise very quickly to people's radars across the industry, and like suppliers start noticing who you are. They start seeing your name. They start trusting your insight, and that works. Like that's how careers are built. That's how brands are built. So be active on social media and be a part of these podcasts. Like if you get an invite, take it. If you got an idea for a show, reach out and be like, hey, could y'all interview me with this? Or can we do a panel about this? Or can I be a presenter at one of your conferences on this topic? Like be proactive and be bold to just bring it. If you're not getting the invite, like don't wait for the invite. Just come and say, hey, can I talk about this?
Okay, right. Can I sit at your table?
I like that advice. That advice. I am going to give you a round of applause. That is good advice. So, yeah, but as you're talking about posting, I just want to apologize to any company felt I was attacking their product. I simply wanted to put out different perspectives of how people may look at different things. So I apologize if I, as when
did you get in trouble about that? I didn't even see.
Oh, okay, good. Now, if nobody saw that, don't worry about it. But I usually try and put questions out that would, provoke some kind of response from people in the industry, just to see who knows, who has different perspectives, you know. So
It's like that's an important point, right? And we don't have to go into your situation, but I think it's important for folks if you're considering getting active on social media. These manufacturers and these suppliers, like they do see what pops up on social media, just like managers see what pops up on Facebook. Like you got to be aware of that in those groups. Well, you also need to be aware of any product related commentary or perspective or opinion that you put out there, because like, yeah, they see it, but then also they have attorneys that see it, and they get very cranky very quickly if it's something that they don't agree with. And there's a balance there, right? So I wrote a blog, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, on the importance about product advocacy. So this is the proactive side. If you love a product, if you love a company or a service and you're a user, go to social media and tell people why you like it, like why it's so good. Because in our industry, this is even built into the tagline of Beyond Clean. The people, the processes, and the products that are pushing the industry forward, we need good products. If we got crappy brushes, it doesn't matter how much they cost. It's not getting the job done. So if you love your brush, tell people that you love it, why you love it, and where you bought it from. Like same thing for chemicals, for tables, for autoclaves, whatever it is. Like we need more users being proactive. It's not like Amazon where you can go like read ratings
right
on an autoclave or a brush or whatever.
So true.
So if we're not talking about it, it's not getting heard. So yeah, that's a great place to be, in a safe zone, because companies love when you say good things about them, right? Like they're not going to come say, hey, like stop talking so good about us and tell all your friends about us. Like you do need to be careful about that negative side of things. And that's what we try very hard to stay away from, obviously, because we don't want to get in that kind of trouble. But that product advocacy piece is huge. And it's not, I think a lot of folks feel like you're selling out if you say something nice about a product or about a company that you like. And as long as you don't blindly like support or follow any company, any product, like no matter what, like that's when you're selling out, right? If you're just saying the good things or the positive things that are true about a product or service, then that's what has to happen, because folks need to know what works.
So next week you'll see me putting out some content on products. So
good.
It's been swollen in my mind. So I'm gonna do it next week. I'm gonna start next week.
I'll try to send you a link to that article because I put some ideas in there about we need a place to go to vet products. If you're trying to decide what's the best rigid container, like right now, everyone goes to Facebook. You ask the question, 300 opinions come flooding in, and then it's gone. And then you get the same question like 2 weeks later, right? And 300 other opinions. You don't even get to know all of the options, because it just whoever happens to see that post on Facebook and whoever happens to comment. And so there really is there's an opportunity, and there's a business opportunity out there somewhere for someone to get a plan together to bring all those products and all those services in kind of a showroom type model with the opportunity for user feedback there.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going to be the Marquise Brownlee of cell processing.
Okay, make it happen, man.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. You want to know about the same way you want to know about a cell phone? You look at his YouTube channel. You want to learn about a product and cell processing, you're going to come to my channel.
Right.
So I'm going to try and get that done. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So, all right. What time is it? It's late.
Yep.
Any last thoughts? We don't want to keep people on it. Thank you for the last for the 3 viewers who are watching. Appreciate you staying on. I know you're probably all from Beyond Clean, so
well, my mom and my kids, and but yeah, the last thing that I'll say is I really appreciate the invite again. This is my second time coming on the show, and it's an honor every time. And I want to remind you what we said earlier, like these conversations matter. They give people ideas, they inspire people, and it just takes one. Like one of those 3 viewers like, who are tuning in right now could be that person who takes it back and says, I'm going to change the way my department is run. I'm going to change the way that my employees are protected or paid or whatever it is. Like it just takes one. And if you love this, which is obvious, you have fun, keep doing it as long as you can. Keep bringing on new voices, keep talking about new topics, and you will see the impact. Like you will have folks come back 2, 3, 5 years down the road and be like, hey, that one show that y'all had, it changed my life. Like, changed my career. It really does matter.
And that's a very impactful statement. Hold on 1 second. 1 second.
We appreciate you.
we appreciate
Nice.
We appreciate that. And we'll end with we'll put your July 16th. What's going on July 16th?
July 16th, the Flexible Scope Conference in collaboration with CBSPD, sponsored by Agility and Northfield in partnership with CCI. Come get your 7 free CEs. Get everything that you want to know about flexible scopes and bring your questions because this is going to be a live seminars. But if you can't watch it live, you can check it out on demand anytime after the fact at beyondclean.net. Check it out. Come join us. Have fun.
So guys, thank you. Thank you for joining. Alessandra, thank you. Hank, thank you so much. We'll definitely invite you again. We had some great conversations, some seamless conversations. And guys, if you go to the beginning of the video, we're talking about SEIU, the strike in Ohio. They came out with a great victory. It was a 4-year plan for 8.5% increase. My man Black Ice came on. You could check out his YouTube channel. Oh boy, I should have did this a little earlier. He has a YouTube channel, Black Ice. He's a spoken word poet. If that's not redundant, he does spoken word and he does a lot of YouTube content. So check his page out. I will definitely post it in the comments of the video on YouTube and on Facebook. I'll definitely put those in the comments before the video. So check his page out. He works with the union. So if you have any union questions, definitely approach him. Even if you're not in the same state, the union might be a little different. Your union policies might be a little different, but definitely if you're disgruntled, unsatisfied, feel you're at risk of injury, overworked, your management isn't listening, you have been to the bargaining table, nothing's going on, you could definitely ask him some advice on how to navigate those pathways on how to get moving on getting compensation or facility changes to your satisfaction for what you do, whether it be phlebotomy, sterile processing, EVS, or clerks within the hospital setting. So definitely check that segment out and check his info out. Alessandra, one of the best co-hosts in the business, one of the biggest supporters. Talk about your institute. Talk about it.
Check me out on Facebook, the Condré Institute. Like Dee said, any questions you have for SPD management, if you guys need help with navigating your job interviews, your resumes, if you have questions about how to get things through in the industry, just reach out, give me a call or send a message. And if you guys have any questions for us, you can reach out to the process as well.
All right. And nobody needs to talk about Hank, but like everybody knows this guy's been on every platform.
I know, you're talking to my face, you're talking to my voice. It's just like, Hank, go to bed.
So everybody knows Hank, what's going on? I mean, besides the 16th, anything else going on you want us to keep an eye out for? Because I know Isham has a conference in October. You have something going on the 16th. What's going on between that?
Well, be looking for the Beyond Clean team and they're in force, and we're going to have a lot of fun things going on. So we'll make it worth your time if you track us down. In addition to that, we've got a big micro credential announcement. It's coming out soon. If you're wondering what is a micro-credential, that's the question that we want you to be asking. So there'll be some more information about that coming out. And then finally, we're going to be making a big refresh on our YouTube channel. So we're going to take a little pause the rest of the year. Got a lot of fun projects and ideas to put in place. We're going to relaunch that January of 2022. So all the other content will be up there, and any live streaming will still be there for the rest of this fall. But buckle up, because we're going to be coming to YouTube in force in January 2022. So stay tuned for that.
I like that. I like that. So guys, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. So we'll see you guys on the next one.